we're live. Okay, we are live. Let me check the stream. A little bit of stream delay, but that's okay. How's it going, y'all? All right, big plans for today. So this is the MacBook, I don't know what to call it, MacBook Pro that I had built from scratch using a Dell Latitude from 2013. And this was the MacBook that I tore down in order to build it. So the goal is to rebuild this by first unbuilding this. It's going to be quite a bit of a endeavor, my assumption is. I'm excited to finally take this apart. I'm sad that I finally have to see it go. But it didn't end up being quite as good as I wanted it to be. There were a couple issues that I had with it, and I'm hoping that with the parts, once I take it back apart, I've got some big goals for what I want in the future. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the channel to see what those goals are, and maybe I'll talk about them a little bit during this stream. Let's go ahead and get started. So MacBook, I'll go ahead and take this apart just so you guys can see. It's scrapped pretty down for pieces. It still has the keyboard and the trackpad, and then it still has the screen in there, but no battery, no USB-C ports and stuff like that. Obviously no motherboard. Eventually, hopefully I want to have it all back together. I have no idea if I have all the screws. They're kind of all over the place after I had first taken it apart. Hopefully I'll have them all, but we'll see. We'll set this aside for now. I think we want to turn our attention first to this. Here's the bottom panel. We can also set that aside. Okay, so this was my MacBook for a couple months, or maybe a year. If you guys haven't seen the original video, maybe I'll try and get it down in the description, but basically I had converted this computer fully to a MacBook. I had lost the trackpad buttons in the transportation of it, but this is a fully touchscreen. This is a fully functional keyboard that works with this computer. And once I flip this over, you'll be able to see very soon, there is the original MacBook motherboard, and underneath it the MacBook battery. This is basically a control board for the screen itself. So first thing to do is to kind of take this all apart and try and get all of the pieces so then I can start rebuilding the MacBook. So we'll start doing that. I think most of these are just going to come off. And I'm less worried about losing pieces of the Dell. It's more of a scrap PC, which is why I built it in the first place, but it's not wanting to come apart. Let me take off the battery cover first. I wonder if there is a screw in there somewhere. Maybe this doesn't come off. It's been a while since I last used this device, or last took it apart. Okay, we'll leave it for now as I start to take other pieces. So I'm going to take out this control board for the touchscreen first because it sits on top. And it's kind of the most delicate, to be honest. There's some ribbon cables in there that I do not want to tear. All right. There we go. And this is pretty cool because it fully powers just with the USB-C ports. So this could take power directly from the Mac and also function as the data and the touchscreen functionality, which is really cool. It was a pretty penny in order to get the right one that worked properly. USB-C, Thunderbolt cable. Can probably start feeding some of these cables through. Some electrical tape, scrap it. Yeah, you can see some of the electrical tape residue is still on this. Maybe I'll take this off. This is just the control board to change like the brightness settings or volume settings of the monitor, which I didn't really use. I think I took off the speakers on this. And then this is a 3.5 millimeter jack that you could also use. And a switch, a quick switch. All right. I'm not sure where all of this is going to go. I'm just going to set it aside for now and then figure out organization later. This is probably my favorite part of this entire build. This is the actual keyboard adapter. I gotta be careful getting it out. It's a little sticky from probably the solder. There we go. So this is the keyboard adapter. This is the coolest part of this whole project. So basically what this does is, this is the original ribbon cable from the Dell itself, from the Dell keyboard itself. It pops in here, and let me see if I can get focus on this. There you go, a little bit better. So it pops right in there, and then this little teensy device on it is programmed to take the inputs from the keyboard and adapt them to this micro USB port over here. So I programmed this, I customized the keyboard and all the keystrokes so that would work. So that's one of my favorite parts of this whole build. It's so small. It's awesome. All right. Let's see if we can get some of these pieces out. Ooh, it's tight. There we go. All right. Just a cable here is a little USB-C docking station, which allowed me to connect an external mouse and the keyboard to it. I used to have a docking station that had more ports to it, but it was actually taking up too much internal space and I couldn't close it up. So this ended up being a better solution, but not the best. I like more ports than this. So if I ever do build this again, then I'll have to get something with more ports. Okay, and then let's see if we can get out the Mac motherboard itself. So a couple ways to do this. I think my best way is to take off this entire bottom panel. Unless this has screws, which I don't think it does, we'll see. It should just release completely. It just snaps off and then kind of bends up. I need to be careful because the ribbon cable does go into the top of the screen, but then underneath I can get to the motherboard. So you can see here, over here is the USB-C cable that actually went outside the MacBook. Might be weird on first glance, but there was actually a good reason for that. So you see, the problem with these MacBooks is unfortunately they only have one display output. So since the display only acted as an external display, since there was no internal display technically, you could only have one output display at a time, and therefore if you wanted to have external monitor, like a big external monitor, you had to reconnect it or disconnect the original display, the touchscreen that we'll get to here in a second. So instead, what I did was I made the connection to the touchscreen modular, so when I wanted to connect it up to a docking station, I could basically unplug it and reconnect it to the docking station instead, which was a cool feature, but I didn't really use it too much. This whole thing I didn't use as much as I wanted to. The goal was for it to become my new MacBook because I could customize keyboard inputs and everything, but it's just a little bit too delicate, as you can see. Here, still more residue from the electrical tape. I feel like someone in the comments is just going to be so angry at me for using electrical tape on this motherboard, but it was the only way that I could find to actually push the MacBook motherboard down without using screws, and I couldn't find a good solution to basically put custom screws in, or put screws in custom places. So yeah, I tried to minimize the impact, but as you can see, there's going to be some adhesive residue that I'm going to have to get out. All right, there we go. More tape. And I'm going to have to be really careful when taking the tape off the battery, because the battery has this little coating that I don't want to rip off the battery itself. Looks like we got one more piece of tape over here. Could be tough to see. Make sure y'all have focus. Now, initially, when I first built this, I actually had some heat dissipation issues, which is not a surprise. Now, technically, there's no dedicated fan in the original MacBook Air M1, but there is a direct impact between the heatsink and the chassis itself, which dissipates some of the heat. So, unfortunately, since I didn't have any sort of metal heatsink like in the MacBook Air M1, this motherboard heated up a little bit worse than stock. If I had a fan in here, it would have cooled down and probably maybe seen a little bit better performance, but unfortunately that did not work out. It's tough to power a small fan like that. And by the way, if any of you happen to be like an electrical engineer or some similar sort of role, please let me know and be sure to reach out to me on Twitter, and I'm happy to take any sort of inputs or guidance on some of these projects as time progresses. I've got a lot of plans for 2023. Fast Hassie, good to see ya. How's it going? All right. Just taking apart this MacBook one piece, or this Hackbook one piece at a time. Trying to be very delicate as to not break anything. Last piece down here is the battery itself. And this is just a piece of paper that I'd used to separate it and not tape directly to the battery. All right. Okay, I think the battery does have some adhesive underneath it. Need to be gentle trying to get it out. So just slide it a little bit. Yeah, a little bit of adhesive still on it. Then this is just electrical tape in order to keep it from contacting important things, but that should not be a problem. I'm going to try and get off some of this adhesive tape before dropping it into the Mac, but we'll get around to that. Ooh, okay, just a clip that was stuck over there. All right, and then the last piece is for me to get off the monitor. So we will release this. There we go. There is the keyboard. Oh man, I love these keys, and that's one of the reasons why I did this build in the first place. These keys are just so comfortable to type on. This is before everyone had switched to islanded keys like the modern keyboards. But I didn't notice myself like touching nearby keys in the process. It felt really nice. Set that aside, and then the last thing to do is get out the monitor, which as you can see has gotten a little bit dusty, fingerprinty, but that's, you know, kind of what happens with a touchscreen monitor. And let me see. All right, a little bit of adhesive here. Yep. There we go. I am going to I'll link to one of the original videos so y'all can check it out if you have not seen it already. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in. See if I can pin that comment. There's the original video. If y'all have not already seen it, you definitely should check it out because it was quite an adventure getting this all into place in the first place. All right, let's lift out this monitor. I think it's just adhered. I don't think there is any sort of permanent connection here. Yep. And then gotta be very gentle with these ribbon cables. There we go. Touchscreen monitor. Oh yeah, I had remembered I cracked. This is a glass back panel that I cracked at one point. Realistically, I don't think it's critical. I think I could get it off if I could remove the adhesive or heat up the adhesive enough. It adds just the slightest amount of depth, but it's still very thin, especially considering this Dell Latitude originally had a very, very thick monitor. Back in 2013, there was a very thick monitor. You know, we didn't have the razor thin touch screens like we did today, even third parties. All right. And that's the Dell, all taken apart in its glory. We're all done, and it is done great. Maybe, I'll leave the sticker for for old time's sake. Next, we gotta put together the Mac. Now, this is going to be the tougher part of this, and it probably will spill into another video or another process if this does not take place tonight, which I'm guessing it's not going to. This is going to be very, very difficult to take care of. But we can start seeing exactly how this is all put together. That's going to slot in there. There's the motherboard. Somewhere in there. Oh, I see the USB-C ports over here that I need to line up with. Then of course there's the battery. So I'm going to need to take off some of the adhesive for the battery. Okay. There's that. Okay. So the battery sits right down here. You can see the routing for some of the cables. I can't remember if it's this side up. I'm pretty sure it is this side up. And then I think, oh, actually, no, I was wrong. It's this way. This is the correct way. And the reason why I know is because this cable basically routes back behind the battery, and then it's going to plug in right there. Originally it was adhered, but I took off the adhesive in order to reroute it when I was building the MacBook. And everyone who is just tuning in, welcome to the channel. If you have not seen my videos beforehand, then welcome. But yeah, this one is going to be a different one. We're just trying to slowly piece together this MacBook, and eventually we'll probably follow a guide when things get too complicated. But for now, I just want to visualize what this whole thing will look like. This is going to have to slot in. And then as you can see, battery's going to have to slide right underneath here. Now, one thing I'll mention is that the battery originally had adhesive strips that kind of kept it all together that I will have to replace. Looks pretty good there. We will slide this in. Then these little USB-C ports slide right into the corner there and get screwed down right there. I will need to, I think this will stay folded back like it is right now. And then on top of here is going to be the antenna. Now, I must admit, the antenna screws down right here, and there is a little plate that goes up behind, or goes up above and holds the antenna cables into place. When I first did the build, that plate popped off and I lost it somewhere in this room. And I lost it for a good year after I built it. And now, and ironically, over only a few weeks ago, I was cleaning and rearranging the entire room, and I stepped on something, and it happened to be that one piece that holds it together, and I was so thankful that I managed to find it. Now, I will admit that there's probably going to be some screws in the process that I had lost that I will not be able to find. But that should be okay. There should be I should be able to find some replacements, and frankly, I don't think this needs all of the screws to be there in order for it to be usable. And that's all I'm planning to do, is use it myself. I'm not planning on selling this or giving it away, or I don't think that would be very nice to force this upon somebody, because it is a little bit more than a used good as new condition. Okay. Speaking of which, let me find the screws. All right. Here we have quite a few parts. Oh, yeah. Forgot about the speakers. And the speakers seem to have screws stuck to them. Hopefully those happen to be the screws that are for the speakers, but based on the fact that they're all different, I'd venture to guess not. Generally, with any sort of repairs that you see from me, I do surface upgrades on my channel, and those usually are a little bit better, but with any work on the Mac, do as I say and not as I do. We've got a whole bunch of screws here, which I would have loved for them to be labeled. I suppose I do have the original footage, so I can go back and watch the original footage. Maybe. That was the original plan, for me to find the original footage and rebuild this from scratch when I was ready, but I didn't expect this to be a year later. So a lot has changed since then. A lot has happened, so I might just have to get like a replacement screws kit. See if I can find an entire replacement screws kit for the whole Mac. But that will probably be in the next video. This is like, I'm wondering where my mind was at. Instead of finding little baggies, instead I taped fake bags together. You ever go back after, a year and look back at the things you've done and thought, what the hell was I thinking? That's how I'm feeling right now. I mean, there are bags full of screws, but they're not labeled. Here, it looks like there's some hardware in this bag. Let me get some scissors. Yeah, I'd say generally don't try this at home. This is why only professionals should probably repair MacBooks, or people who are a little bit more willing to read the manual. Which I'll probably end up doing eventually when this all gets way too confusing for me. The last thing I want to do is misplace screws. I'd rather not know what screws do. Set that aside. Go ahead and cut this open. All right. Oh, I know what this one is. That is the Touch ID with its very, very bizarre, like, cut-off PCB. So this is the Touch ID and the 3.5 millimeter jack. It slots right up here. Now, notably, the Touch ID sensor backs against it sits in the chassis and actually puts pressure against the chassis itself. So that's why right now it doesn't work as a button the same way that the normal power button does. One kind of funny thing about this entire MacBook build that I had is that there was no power button. Instead, basically, to power on the device from scratch, you had to plug it in because, or unplug the battery and replug in the battery because it could not otherwise work. So if you ever, for whatever reason, fry your battery and you need to charge your Mac, or you need to check if your Mac's still working, then you just plug it in and it should power on. One of the biggest surprises that I realized from this entire endeavor is that this motherboard right here is all you need for a full MacBook Air M1. It has everything on it that you need. So if you just plug this in with the USB-C ports to an external docking station, then it will work as a full desktop computer, which is very cool. It will only give you one monitor. You can't have multiple monitors, but still very cool. Let's make sure, maybe we can get this adhesive off by taking off this electrical tape. One of the considerations that I had was folding these batteries, not folding the whole thing, but this is made up of 3 component pieces, you can see. And I wanted to take those pieces off of their parts and then use them individually and then orient them the way I wanted to, rather than being forced to this orientation. I was just worried that I might break something, and I didn't want to puncture a battery. There's already going to be a high likelihood that that this does not survive in the end, but might as well give us the best opportunity. I might have to just put some adhesive down on this. In order to keep it down. Maybe I'll No, I'm not reusing electrical tape. What are you talking about? No, I'm not reusing electrical tape just because my electrical tape is on the other side of the room and I don't want to go and get it. What are you talking about? All right. It doesn't have to be pretty. I just needs to hold this down relatively flat. All right. So these need to go in place. That is the chassis screw. This can come up just a bit, so then I can slide this underneath. I don't believe... Okay, so this is going to be the touchpad and keyboard connector. I don't believe that there's a cable right here, and I think that's for the second speaker. If we were to envision what these speakers were going to look like, you can see there's a little bit of bend here. Oh, I put that screw back. So speakers, this speaker is going to go here likely. Oh no, there it is. So that speaker goes there, and that should plug in there, right? Whole bunch more screws. I hope they haven't permanently damaged the speakers. I'll have to test the speakers after all this. I know. I feel like folks are probably gonna scream at me in the comments. And probably warranted, to be honest. I did not take good care of this, and I should have taken better care of it. I was just so interested in building that MacBook from scratch that I let it get the best of me. It's weird how these are almost exact mirrors of each other. Yeah, there's no way that goes this way. That goes here. There we go. Okay. This will slot in here, but there is a screw right here that I need to remove. Is the screwdriver already... Okay. This is not right. Okay, let's get the right screwdriver, the right bit. Still not the right bit. There we go. T3. Was this screw in the right place? I'm starting to think this screw was not in the right place, because this is not adhering, or this is not screwing in. no, it's definitely screwing in, so it's just a gap. I realized that I need to put the battery down first. Right? Because the battery is going to need to slide right down underneath it. Now, like I said before, I will need to adhere the battery when I do this final build, but I just want to see how everything slots into place. This is not long enough. So these are chassis screws. Well, this is a screw from my Dell, but these look like chassis screws. This. Oh. I just heard a screw drop, I swear. Oh, there it is. So tiny. I have no idea where that goes. Okay. Well, I have a feeling that I'm going to need an iFixit guide in order to get all of this back together. All right. Well, we'll have to save that for another day because this is going to take a while. So the next stream, I will pull up a guide and get everything finished, hopefully for real. Hopefully everything's going to work. Thanks y'all for watching tonight. It was just a fun, time pass stream. It was definitely an adventure. Hopefully I'm going to be able to get this all back together. And the next time this is going to work flawlessly, but we'll have to see. If you aren't already, be sure to get subscribed. Keep an eye out. Got a lot of big videos headed to the channel here soon. Most of them are a little bit more put together than this one. But I did enjoy this, and I hope y'all did too. I'll see you guys soon.